So just what is a formula and what is a function? Are they two interchangeable words and we're just being crazy using both of them? Well, the answer to that part is no, they are two different things. Formula is effectively any mathematical equation. So anything in Excel where you start with an equal sign is a formula. Function, however, is a command of some type that carries out a bit of work, possibly mathematical, possibly statistical, possibly on text, and returns a result of some kind. So in our little examples above here we have a formula that is adding up the contents of 3 cells, equals D2 plus E2 plus F2. That is not a function. It's not a command that returns a result. It's a mathematical formula. The second row, however, which does exactly the same thing in the end, is a function. The sum function takes something, in this case it takes this range, and returns a result. Now the result that it returns is all of the contents of that range added up. Any function will take something, it might even take more than one thing, and return a result. Over here we have a number of other functions. Average function takes a range and returns the average of that range. The mode function takes a range and returns the mode of that range, even if, as we have here, there is no value for the mode, which is why we have NA. So it's still returning something. The min function takes a range and returns the smallest number, and the max takes a range and returns the highest number. So the function usually has an open and closed set of brackets. The function name goes before the open brackets. The things that you're sending into the function, so the input parameters, go inside the brackets, and then the output is what you get in the cell. Here we have OK, which is actually two functions. There is the max function here, and then the outer if function. So the max function returns a value, which is the highest number in the range. Then it's used inside an if to see if the max equals 50. Then we output either help if it is equal to 50, or OK if it's not equal to 50. So the if function takes 3 parameters: a logical test, a value if true, and a value if false. Now all of the functions in Excel, when you start to create them, show you the parameters that are required. And here we have 3 parameters: logical test, value if true, value if false. Now you can actually miss out value if true and value if false because they are optional parameters. I know that because they have little square brackets around them. If you see a parameter with square brackets around them, then it's an optional parameter. It's not actually required. If you don't put it, then that function will take a default for that particular input parameter. Now in this particular case with the if, the logical test is the input parameter and the help and the OK are actually the possible outputs. So if we miss them out, we'll actually get the word true or we'll get the word false. So the formula is anything after an equal sign. Function is a command of some kind with an open and closed brackets. It will take an input into those open and closed brackets and then return an output. Now there are some commands, such as equals today, which is a function, but it doesn't take an input parameter. It simply goes and works out what today's date is without you giving any input at all. It doesn't need any input, it's just been told to go find out what today's date is. So it is a function, it has a command, it has a set of brackets, but it requires no input, but it still returns a value, and that value happens to be today's date. So that's the difference between formulas and functions. A formula doesn't require a function, but a function can be part of a formula.